Gold has been the key driver of economic growth in Guyana. The industry has superseded traditional gross domestic products, GDP, contributors such as rice and sugar. Last year, the 713,000 ounce of gold declaration was the largest ever in the country's history. This large declaration earned the country in excess of US 700,000. Small and medium-scale mining operations contributed to 70% of this record-breaking declaration. However, for many small miners, accessing mining land, landlordism, and accessing capital are monumental challenges for the men and women who brave the country's vast interior to eke out a living. The government, recognizing these challenges that small miners face, undertook a unique model, creating syndicates. This week's Guyana 411 take a look at what a syndicate is and how it is creating equal opportunities for small miners. I am Delon Sanko, and this is Guyana 411. Thank you for staying with us. Last year, the Ministry of Natural Resources met with miners at a conference held at the Artichon Convention Center. Following that meeting and the challenges raised by small miners at the forum, the Syndicates initiative was born.
Access to lands for mining is one of the fundamental challenges faced by small miners across the 6 mining districts in Guyana. Miners often bemoan this difficulty of accessing lands to mine.
Really pressed with having to go and get permission to work on some other body's lands.
But even if a miner finds lands, he or she often complains of being bullied off of the land.
But once you find something, somebody's going to come in quietly, and the next thing is you see some claimants show up. And the thing got that person's name, it got some big boy name on it. So I'm glad that we get to the point where all of that is hopefully a thing of the past. Because the syndicate is going to change that.
When we go on the land, people are always owning the land. We already have it. But you can't walk it, the park right now. Because then you go, people say, well, this is their land and this is their land and things. So you have to park it and then go on.
Some miners have also complained of excessive fees they have to pay for working other people's lands.
And the price for them is one for these things for the month, buddy. Sometimes you reach on the land and you never start what 3 weeks in. I don't talk how much people pay credit. I owe me fine, last so much money, write it out.
Then there are those miners who often take the risk of raiding lands out of frustration of lack of working space.
You start a land, you might be this weed bullshit, the warden come, it stop you, you take care of. It ain't going so like how now you come in, you like to know it go the way you speaking.
The primary aim of the Syndicate initiative was to provide lands to small miners. Last October, Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman introduced the syndication.
But we're thinking now that if we give 10 miners 3 blocks each, the cumulative effect of that is a 30-block area which a syndicate could mine far better than if they try to do it individually. Renting of equipment, organizing, ration, and so forth.
Even though it was launched last year, the Syndicates project began to gain momentum at the start of this year. Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, has been traveling across the country sensitizing miners about the project and how they can mobilize and benefit from being a part of a mining syndicate.
The Syndicate project is more than just providing lands to small miners. It is a means of structuring small miners into businesses so that they can effectively earn a living in the demanding high capital investment sector. Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, has lead responsibility for establishing mining syndicates. She notes the initiative provides an equal opportunity for small miners to earn a living.
My experience would have proved that in the past, persons might get land, some persons get land without a little gold, some we got nothing at all, you can't even plant pine. And so while it was said, oh, but we give you land, maybe out of 50 is only one person get a little money off of the whole lottery. And then there's a cry that things bad, we ain't got money. And for example, the concessions that government will be given, they can't filter down to you, how you could receive from it, and all those things. It is said by some group of people that small miners are people that drags about from here and there and they're not relevant. It was said by some that some miners, small miners, who they profess to represent, are touts and tucks. But I say to you, every miner is equally important, from the battle to the detector, to the 4-inch, to the 6-inch, to the dragger, to the excavator, be it who you be. With this government, we'll call for the level playing field.
A mining syndicate is formed by a minimum of 5 persons registering the syndicate as a business. Once registered, the syndicate can add other miners as members.
So you come, you want a position, all right, come. We put you here, this we contract. This is the money. Of course, you're not going to exploit them like the exploitation would have been facing, because you're mining yourself. Correct. And they pay the percentage to the syndicate. That money that the syndicate get now, you could take that same money to empower yourself and empower each other.
By working as a group, the mining syndicate reduces the overall capital investment that would be required if a small miner were to go it alone, Minister Brooms explains.
You have persons, even if they go and get a piece of land now, syndicate is not the only means of getting property. You just saw in the papers, I think it was last week, a list of names of persons. But some persons, even if they get this property, the expense and the cost in getting there, I mean, as an individual, it becomes impossible. But I thought that once you come together and you could team yourself up, you go in, if you got a truck, maybe you could charter the truck in 2. You understand? You're going with a boat, you could share the expense and you could pool resources and you can come together. And I thought that once this opportunity presents itself, it is something that will really work well for the miners at the low level.
Additionally, miners would have access to concessions offered by the government as a syndicate, which would further alleviate its use of funding to invest in the development of their operations. A unique feature of the syndicate is that membership is extended to foreigners who mine on a small scale as well.
Once they are here, they have their dredges. There's a point I want to make. They're legal, they have their work permits and their document. They should be able to work, and the mere fact that they cannot access these lands to work, being a part of the syndicate does not make them that they own the land. That is not what is happening there. What happens is that they can be a part of the syndicate now, which the syndicate property does not belong to any single individual. So I just want to put it on record that the Brazilians being a part of syndicate is not for one to mispeddle that, meaning that the minister is saying that Brazilians now can own this land. This license is not in their name. It will not be in their name, but I think it is an equal opportunity. They are human beings. They suffer like us. Some of them are here for several years, have their children, married, but still they're faced with that problem.
The syndicates are afforded the opportunity to identify areas where they would like to work.
You go out, identify, make your application and come back to us. We will vet. Once it is not an area closed for serious, some big issue related matters and so on, we'll make those areas available.
Minister Broom says having miners identify where they want to work is part of ensuring that they do not feel cheated in the allocations they receive. However, the minister cautions the syndicates she has met to date that they themselves could pose a challenge to the success of the syndicate if they do not work together.
The biggest challenge you will have is you of yourself. You of yourself. And you wouldn't get government in that. You wouldn't get dishonorable Brooms in that. We are not here to dictate and get into all the little nitty-gritties and all of that. The syndicates, you will establish your rules,
You have your laws, you have certain boundaries. I want you to know that accountability will be high because the syndicate, while you'll be getting the concessions, you have to pay a tax, you have to account for the money that will come in, how you're going to do it with your development, who borrow money from the syndicate, who will pay back, that is internal. But what you will not get away with, this is not a scandal thing. The land is now for sale, you can't sell it. Somebody hearing? Yeah. You can't sell it. So the executive of all the syndicates will come to Georgetown. We're working on the guidelines. We want to see your internal rules and so on that you have. We can have a copy of that. Now, any problem with mining, you have the Guyana Geology and Mine deals with that. I have some of the staff here. So it is nothing new. Somebody walk here, this, that. Who are you going to? GGMC.
The Ministry of Natural Resources will track the syndicates to evaluate the success of the initiative, as syndicates are expected to uphold the Mining Act and regulations.
Both the ministry and the Guyana Geology and Mine, because they have to be registered with the Guyana Geology and Mine. Guyana Geology and Mine, they're the commission that deals with mining. But because the policy and the whole idea with the initiative of syndicates to ensure that we have a clear understanding, they will submit to us also a list. I'm dealing with the syndicate, so they will submit their list of names and all of that. So when Minister Rodman and I were discussing, we know exactly how this is managing by facts, how to evaluate, how many dredges did we make real opportunity for, are they working, where are they working, what are production coming out of the area, how many persons we have created employment for. So it is really, really far-reaching, it's wider, and I think that it's a fair opportunity.
Small miners have been very receptive to the mining syndicates. Since the movement began, there was a rapid formation of syndicates across Guyana. To date, some 14 mining syndicates have been established across the country. Small miners have given this project their full support.
For many small miners, mining syndicates have reinvigorated their enthusiasm for the work they do. There has been a sweeping acceptance of the syndicate project, and miners have been actively mobilizing themselves. Arthur Thurn of the Parikamora Small Miners Association is optimistic about the initiative.
We are here to support the Ministry initiative. The mining initiative is a good initiative.
Thorne has been mobilizing his community into a syndicate and has received monetary support from the businesses in the community.
We're looking to go into Peroni area and the Northwest area, Barama area. We already identified land and we went up 2 days ago. We have over 110 members from the Perika area, yes, 110. Yeah, 110 members we have.
Small miners in Bartica came in for praise from the minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, for their efficiency in mobilizing into a syndicate.
The people here at Carroll Mining Syndicate not only have identified the property, but they've went on ground. I think just a few weeks ago, with the support of the government through the GGMC, they was on ground with Desmond Hamer, young Mr. Daniels. We had somebody else, other persons? Jardins. They provided their transportation. And that was the first initiative. I mean, I was so pleased that this group of miners pooled their resources. Who got a vehicle, who cooked some food, and they went out there with the support with GGMC, the mines officer, Mr. Josiah, to identify and to look at the area.
Head of the Carroll Mining Syndicate, Judith Davis Blair, shares the progress of that syndicate.
Well, for Carroll Mining Syndicate, we have already acquired about 50 miners on our syndicate. When we heard of the syndicate, the initiative of the syndicate from the government, we decided to jump on it very quickly because we realized that through this syndicate, it would not only be one miner, it would be a whole set of miners and a quantity of miners who would be able to benefit from this syndicate. We have already acquired 7 blocks in the Corabrang area. And it is in its PL stage, prospect and license stage, But we do hope that our process will continue very quickly, that we can get mining license so that we can go out to mine. But we already have about 50 miners who are willing to work on the syndicate and who we can safely say are affiliations to the syndicate.
In Mbamidai, miners are already making plans to ensure that the depressed community benefits as well. Wallace Daniels explains.
Only since this group has been formed that people have begun to see their way out of, I don't know what we call it, out of the spiral that we were in. Now, Mbamidai in 2 years went from being a community that had, I think, 38 shops. And we judge a community in Interior by the number of shops it has. Because it doesn't look like much, but it went from having 38 shops until last October, there were only 5. And I'd like to report that, today we're supposed to collect our registration from the registry, and we'll be talking with GGMC before the end of the week. So I understand that people at Mbamidai are already rejoicing and celebrating. So things are happening. It's not a talk, it's already been happening. What I would like in the tendency of what I've been hearing this morning, one of the things we have in mind is that this August, the Mbamidai Syndicate, we're already discussing having a work-study program. For some of the people who are leaving high school, who may or may not get their minimum CXC, we're hoping to have a work-study where they begin to prepare to learn some of the needs of mining. They need to learn, we need people who could be mechanics helpers. We need people who could be note keepers. We're talking about taxation. Every dredge will have to have somebody who could keep a record of their activities and their expenses by the day. And all of these things we're hoping to start getting people accustomed to doing it. Nobody likes taxes, but at Mbamidai, we're glad for some to be able to earn some money so we could pay tax on it.
Region 10 is the latest to form a syndicate. Head of the Region 10 Miners Syndicate Inc., Dexter Copeland, says the syndicate has already amassed a large membership.
We opened the Wisdom Shore will form ourselves into the syndicate about 2 months now. We have meetings every Sunday. We will now get registered through D-Registry where we incorporate our regular syndicate. We will put a name to it at Region 10 Miners Syndicate Inc. And we will open up for the whole of Region 10 to be a part of it.
Given the size of Region 10, Minister Broom says that consideration will be given to establishing another syndicate. The ministry seeks to limit the number of syndicates in a given area. However, because of the expanse of the area in Region 8, there are 2 syndicates, one in central Madhya and the other in Konaruk. As the syndicates continue to be formed, each group will eventually be part of a national body, the minister says.
We'll have 2 persons from each syndicate come together to make a representation at the level. So bi-monthly, even when they meet, and I'm going to take time off to meet with them also bi-monthly so that we have all across the sector on one page. Not only that, but I think the support of each other for the syndicates is very important. And they can learn best practices, they can share ideas, opportunities and all of that. And we pull them together collectively into one body.
The existing syndicates have elected an interim national body that is headed by Renwick Solomon. Solomon, who also heads the 14-Mile Sano Syndicate, says the interim body has been sensitizing miners about the syndicate.
More and more people are coming on board, people are asking questions, and we're having nothing but positive feedback from the nation as a whole. Through the different syndicates all across Guyana, people have been asking questions, coming on board, as I said before. So it has been an overwhelming response.
However, as the syndicates gain momentum, there are concerns raised by the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association that the groups are being used by the government. The body of miners has accused the government of trying to be divisive in the industry, a claim that both the ministers have since denounced.
This is a government of unity. We are not here to divide no miner. We are looking at a sector, and the sector have miners at all levels. You have detector, you have some persons with big ambition, they got plenty properties, they got different organizations, and we're looking at all miners. We are not there to divide. When we go about to do the consultation, it's not about division. We're focusing on listening to them. What is it you want? We're not saying that we know it all, the smaller miners. So I want to first put it on record that that whole idea with this Flintstone arrangement that government is looking to divide and rule. How will we want to rule when we're putting independence in your hands?
As the Ministry of Natural Resources works to ensure that there is full compliance in the mining sector, the syndicates will be held as a model in the sector. The groups will be expected to not only follow the Mining Act and the regulations of the Guyana Geologies and Mine Commission, but also ensure that damages to the environment is minimized, as well as adhere to the new tax measures.
Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, says that the syndicates will benefit from opportunities to improve their practices to ensure that they are compliant.
We just can't be digging up the land and breeding mosquitoes that kill us, but we've got to be able to respect the environment, particularly respect the communities where mining is taking place. Every now and then there's a complaint of river pollution, of outbreaks of vector-borne diseases like Zika or malaria. We've got to be able to keep those to a minimum, and we have to respect workers, both in terms of their safety. Mining practices have to be improved, and we have to ensure that workers receive good wages and they're not taken advantage of. So all of these are areas that the ministry is actively involved in.
Minister within the Ministry of Natural Resources, Simona Brooms, says some of the syndicates have already taken the initiative to ensure that they are compliant with labor laws.
The syndicate of themselves will put a framework in place. The syndicates, they were finding out about union, how they can ensure that the workers working there are protected. And so the syndicate body will engage the department, the Ministry of Social Protection, to find out and to know exactly what are the terms, the conditions, some of the safety measures that needs to be implemented. They have already sent a letter to myself and Minister Trotman seeking some guidance and support in the area of safety and the exploitation and workers' rights, and because they agree, as Judge Owner of themselves, that in order to be compliant, they recognize that the workers who work in the extractive industry, they are equally important.
Meanwhile, Commissioner General of the Guyana Revenue Authority, Godfrey Stacia, says the GRA will work with the GGMC to ensure that mining industry workers are properly documented for taxation purposes.
To ensure that for you to get a privilege, you'll get a TIN number that goes with the privilege. And the TIN would go on the privilege for all you. Yes, right. So that is what we are working towards. When you get the privilege, the TIN is on your privilege, so you have that, and your work is finished after that. It is better you attack it at source. You can't have two government agencies doing the work, right? And we can. Well, I don't know what GGMC does now, but I know that I'm going to ensure that if a guy gives another guy his privilege to work, and any taxes is due, he would have to pay because he has given him his privilege, right? So we're going to look at the privilege process to ensure that works.
The new tax measures, which were introduced to the mining sector at the start of this year, were a major concern for miners. Those measures include increase in tributous tax from 10% to 20%, payment of a 2% tax, and a requirement of all miners to file their income tax returns. GRA's Commissioner General, Godfrey Stacia, has explained to small miners the importance of keeping records.
That has been in place since the law was introduced in the late 80s. The law was introduced in the 80s and say that you're going to pay a 2% tax, but you should keep records so that if we check it, we would recognize that this is the amount of income you would have gotten from gold and mining, so we'll be able to tax your other sources of income. Now, small miners, all they have is mining income. Right? The large miners have other sources of income. The large miners are the ones that would have been selling their gold outside other than to the gold board. Small miners may have probably been selling that gold to the larger miners, and they in turn would have sold to the gold board. But what we have found is that close to 30% of all gold that has been produced have not been sold to the gold board. And you only find that out after you have checked all the buyers of the gold, all that has been exported versus all that has been declared to the gold board. And then when you double check your information with that from the GGMC, that is where you're seeing the shortfall. Right. That being said, this law is not structured to catch small miners.
The GRA boss assures miners that these new measures will take time to be implemented.
We need time, we need a marketing time. So it would not be enforced immediately. Like I was at all the meetings, I am saying, by the end of the year, we should be getting everything in place.
Miners across the mining district were provided with a booklet from the GRA on the new tax measures that explained how the measures will be implemented. Miners in the syndicates have been very receptive to the explanation and have offered to comply with the measures.
I can assure you that that simple form that you just read from here, that will help so many of us. Whether we want to think about taxes or not, just the idea of keeping records will help us
definitely
so much in knowing where we're heading with our businesses and so forth. So that's a very good initiative.
The mining syndicates is just one of the initiatives to ensure that small miners are afforded equal opportunity to earn a living in the mining industry. The Ministry of Natural Resources is also making land available to small miners through its closed area committee who wish to operate on their own. Last year, the closed area committee gave out 235 mining blocks to small miners. The Ministry of Natural Resources has pledged to continue strengthening this group of miners. This has brought us to the end of another edition of Guyana 411. Remember, this and all other GINA programs can be viewed on our YouTube channel. You can also get updates from our Facebook page. I am Delon Sanko. Have a great week ahead.